Dear students, in the last week we have seen the general characters and classification in the live class. This is a recorded video of the same topic so that you can refer at your convenience. As we have seen, the algae forms a diverse group and it is known by different names all over the world, and we can see different groups of people from various countries in their own language use different terms to indicate these plants. They are aquatic, marine or freshwater, cryptogams. And the study of algae is known by different names based on the language from which such words arise. For example, the phycology term is based on the Greek word phycos, meaning seaweed. Similarly, the algology is a term derived from the Latin word alga, based on which the English people use algology as the study of algae. This is your syllabus, where you can see a nice introduction is a must for this topic, although you have studied about algae in your +2 classes. The introduction includes the study of the range of thallus structure, its diversity, complexity, its phylogeny, that is the evolution of this complex structure from the simple forms such as unicellular alga to multicellular gigantic forms present in the sea, the pigmentation, the presence of different types of pigments in different algae, and their importance with respect to their habitat, where the availability of light is limited very much in the deep sea, where the red algae are abundant. Similarly, the phytoplanktons present on the surface of sea have actively photosynthetic thylakoids. So the pigmentation is a very important character for algae. Then we will see the reproduction. It is one of the first life forms where sexual reproduction is seen. So we can see the development of sexuality in plants beginning in the lower algae, where the unicellular algae form male and female gametes. As you have studied in the +2 classes, there are different types of reproduction such as isogamy, anisogamy, and oogamy, and there are structural modifications and complexities for the development of these sexual organs, although they are cryptogams. Then to the complexity of life cycle. All the types of life cycles can be seen in the algae. Most of them are haploid, but there are diploid forms. Some are showing both haploid and diploid life cycles. So there is a complexity in life cycle also. We will see that also in detail. And after seeing all this, we will come back to the classification. Although there are numerous classifications and some of them are modern, proposed recently, we are concentrating on the classification proposed by F.E. Fritch, who is a pioneer in the study of algae and has produced a classical book in the subject. So we will study the classification proposed by Fritch. Then coming to the second chapter, we will study different orders coming under algae, and this classification is purely based on the thallus complexity reproductive structures, and also the pigmentation. We can see that all the groups are not prescribed for your study, but representative groups of algae are given, and each group contains numerous forms, but we will study a particular type indicating the general characters and also the life forms included in the group. For example, in the case of Cyanophyceae, which is a blue-green algae, it's a prokaryote, and we will study the type nostoc in detail there, so that we can understand how the Cyanophyceae is differentiated and also how complex the life of a Cyanophyceae. Similarly, in the Chlorophyceae, it's a large group with green algae and comprises thousands of genus, but we will study 4 types: Chlorella, Volvox, Eudogonium, and Cara, which are representative of their thallus complexity. For example, Chlorella is a unicellular alga, whereas Volvox is a colonial form, and Eudogonium is a filamentous alga, and Cara is a member with much complex thallus structure. Similarly, in the case of Xanthophyceae, we will study about Ochiria, and in the case of Basilar, comprises the diatoms, we will study the Pinularia. In the case of Eophyceae, we know the group which is known as the brown algae, where the largest giant seaweeds are included. We will study about sargassum there. And in the case of Rhodophyceae, which is one of the most advanced groups, we have Polysiphonia. In the third chapter, after studying all these types and orders, we will go into the details of economic aspects and utility value of algae, where the role of algae in soil fertility is seen in detail. Then the fertilizer industry, nitrogen fixation, both by symbiosis as well as free living forms of nitrogen fixers coming under the algae. Then the commercial products such as agar, alginates, etc. Then the diatomaceous earth, which is very important in cement industry. And at last, we will see the medicinal aspects of algae and some environmental impacts such as algal blooms and red tides. So let us go to the detail of algal complexity. Some of the characteristics of algae are given here. They range from microscopic unicellular organisms to large seaweeds such as sargassum. All of them are autotrophic. Autotrophic means they prepare their own food, they can photosynthesize, they utilize the sunlight, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere or dissolved in water, and prepare their own carbohydrates. Then the reproductive structures are gametangia. Gametes are produced in some chambers, which are known as the gametangia. Then many of the aquatic forms have flagella at some point of time. If they are not present in the mature form, they will be there in the gametic stage or in the spore stage. And most of the algae have pyrenoid or similar structures in the cell to store, to serve food materials. So we can say that all these are some characteristic features of algae. Coming to the thallus structure, we can see that most of the time it is a haploid thallus, but there are some diploid forms also. And types of algae there are unicellular types such as Chlamydomonas that you have studied in the +2 classes. Then there is colonial forms. Colonies are formed. We have some types in that category. Then the filamentous forms and multicellular forms. So structure is also very complex from the unicellular forms to multicellular forms. So this is a unicellular alga, you can see. And there's a colony also of volvox, and this is a filamentous form of Spirogyra, and this is an underwater large culture of giant algae. So this is a complexity of algae. Then coming to the classification of algae, the characters or the criteria used for the classification are the color of the thallus, then the type of the chlorophyll, and the substance which is used as the storage material, and the cell wall composition. These are the major characters used in recent times for the classification of algae. Coming to reproduction, they reproduce both bisexual and asexual methods. Most sexual reproduction is triggered by the environmental stress. It's very interesting that the sexual reproduction takes place at the beginning of the unfavorable season. During favorable season, the algae undergo rapid multiplication through asexual and vegetative methods. But when the conditions become unfavorable, when the season becomes unfavorable, when the streams dry up, they start to produce sexual cells. After sexual fusion, they form perinating spores with thick walls. So it is a mechanism to tide over the adverse condition also. Luxuriant growth takes place during the favorable season, and a perinating dormant spore is formed just before the adverse season so that it is protected from the environmental stress. Coming to the asexual reproduction, as you know, there is no involvement of meiosis. So both vegetative and asexual reproduction can be considered as a method for rapid multiplication. In the case of sexual reproduction, we can see different stages, such as the stage of meiosis, which can be zygotic, as well as zygotic meiosis, where the meiosis takes place in the zygote so that the plant organism will be haploid, where in the gametic meiosis, the meiosis takes place just before the gamete formation so that the plant will be a diploid organism. Then the zoospores are there, plus or minus gametes. They are compatible gametes, plus or minus strains we can see. Then the zygospores, which are the perinating spores we can trace in many algae. In the case of multicellular algae, we can see the complexities of sexual reproduction, where the Antheridia and Euglena are produced. This is thallus structure showing different structures. We can see a continuous, there is no petiole or a lamina or a root structure. It's only a holdfast which fast the thallus to a substratum such as a rock surface, an elongated region which help the thallus to lash in the water, and a chlorophyll rich region which synthesize the food. So it is a simplest organization, but very much adapted to the environment. It's a common figure. You are familiar with this picture as you have studied it in the +2 classes, where Spirogyra undergo conjugation so that sexual recombination takes place. So we will see some of the major groups. First one is the Chlorophyta. It is a green algae. There are 7,000 species are identified. And our concept is that the Chlorophyta give rise to the land plants. So they are the forerunners of our land plants, and they contain, just like the higher plants, chlorophyll A and B as their pigments. Both higher plants and algae have cell walls made up of cellulose. Phaeophyta, which is another major group known as the brown algae, they also have large number of species. Around 1,500 species are there. They are mostly marine and include seaweed and kelp. They are multicellular and large, may go up to 100 meters with a holdfast. That means a thallus is very much elongated. At attached to a rock surface and it grows to large area so that interconnected thallus float in the surface of water and do photosynthesis. They are used in the cosmetic industry and ice creams. You will see the Phaeophyta in detail. Coming to the Odophyta, they are red algae. There are 4,000 species. It is one considered as the most advanced type of algae. They are smaller than brown algae, but they can live in the very deep sea, about 200 meters. They are red in color. The red color is helping them to capture maximum energy rich light such as violet, indigo, blue region and green region also, where because the pigment is red, so they can absorb the other region of the visible spectrum. So the minimum amount of energy rich light available in the deep sea is captured by them. And they contain the chlorophyll A and C, and phycobilins are also present. And they produce many compounds which are used in the cosmetic as well as food and nutraceutical industry, such as keratin, agar-agar, etc. Euglena phyta is a unique group where Euglena is included, which is in the middle of Animalia and Plantae, having the characters of both plants and animals. So, after seeing all these general characters, we will see the classification proposed by F.E. Fritch. This is considered as one of the comprehensive and authoritative classification because he has written the Bible of algology, known as the Structure and Reproduction of the Algae during the year 1930s and 40s. His classification was based on criteria such as the pigmentation, types of flagella, assimilatory products, thallus structure, and method of reproduction. In the recent classifications also we use these criteria, except such as types of flagella, or he divided algae into 11 classes. They are the Chlorophyceae. First one is the Chlorophyceae, which is the green algae. It is also called as isochondri because they have the similar type of flagella. There are two types of flagellation, isochondri and heterochondri. In isochondri, there are two flagella which are similar types. Pigments are chlorophyll A, B, carotenoids and xanthophylls. Chloroplast has pyrenoids, so it is a unique feature of green algae, the presence of pyrenoids which store starch. Pyrenoids are protein bodies and they store starch. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Flagella are present and are of equal length. That is why they are called as isochondri. Then reproduction is by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. The Chlorophyceae is divided into 9 orders, such as volvocales, in which we have to study the volvox. Then the chlorococales, where we have to study the chlorella. Then eulothricales. Example is eulothrix. We need not study the details of eulothrix as a type. Then the cladophora is included in the cladophorales. We have to study it in detail. Then the chaetophorales, where the Fritchiella is an example. Edagoniales, where the edagonium is included. We have to study it in detail. Then the conjugales, where Cynema is included. Siphonales, where the Faucheria. And the carales, where the cara is the type. Cara is one of the most developed, well-developed green alga. Coming to the Xanthophyceae. Coming to Xanthophyceae, Xanthophyceae is also known as heterochondri because they have two different types of flagella, which is exclusively heterochondri group. So here the food material is oil and cell wall with pectic substances and cellulose. Then there is a typical eukaryotic cell with a anteriorly inserted, 2 unequal flagella, they are heterocondae. One is whiplash type. We will see what is whiplash type and tensile type, etc. in the later classes. So there are two types. One is whiplash and other is tensile type. Then the reproduction is by vegetative means. Sexual methods are also seen. The class have been divided into 4 orders. Among them, we have to study the type Vaucheria coming under the order Heterosiphonails. The other orders are Heterochlorodeals, Heterococales, and Heterotrichales. Another group is the Chrysophyceae coming under algae. Here the pigment is phycochrysine, which gives a brown or orange color. This is a unique class proposed by Fritch. Although they are brown in color, chromatophores have naked pyrenoid-like bodies. Fruit reserve is chrysolaminarin and leucosin. Cell wall is silicified or calcified. That means on the surface of the thallus we can see silica deposits or calcium deposits. Then motile cells have 2 anteriorly inserted equal or unequal flagella. There is no specifications as isocondae or heterocondae. There are 2 flagella will be there. They can be similar or dissimilar. Sexual reproduction is rare. When present, it is very primitive isogamous type. This class also contains 3 orders: Chrysomonadales, Chrysospherales, and Chrysotrichales. And the next class is the Basilar, which are also known as diatoms, yellow or golden brown algae. The color is due to the presence of golden brown pigments such as fucosanthin, diatoxanthin, and diadenosanthin. The chromatophores have pyrenoids, and so obviously the photosynthetic products are fat and volatilin. Cell wall is pectic and silicific. It contains 2 halves which are either radial symmetrical or bilateral symmetrical. That means it's a round box type where the symmetry will be radial, or it is a square type where bilateral symmetry can be seen. The mitotic cells usually have a single flagella, and the sexual reproduction is by the fusion of the gametes. There are 2 orders based on the symmetry. One is the centrales, where the symmetry is radial, it will be circular in outline, and the penniles, where it is the in which the pinnularia is included. We have to study the pinnularia in detail, and we will see the group in detail when we study the type. Similarly, another group is Cryptophyceae, which is also a unique group proposed by Fritch, where the pigment is xanthophyll, but it's differentiated from Phaeophyceae. Pyrenoid-like bodies are present, independent of chromatophores. Motile cells are dorsiventral with anteriorly inserted unequal flagella. Sexual reproduction is rare, and it also contains 2 orders, Cryptomonadales and Cryptococcales. None of them are prescribed in your syllabus for detailed study. Then the Dinophyceae is there. The main pigment is xanthophyll, which impart brown or red color. Food reserve is starch or fat. Cell wall is cellulosic. They are dinoflagellates. Dinophyceae, there are 2 flagella are there. Many species are colorless saprophytes. Sexual reproduction rare or isogamous type. There are 6 orders: Desmodales, Thickettales, Dinophyceales, Dinoflagellata, Dinococcales, and Dinotrichales. Then comes the Chloromonadinae, where numerous discrete chloromatophores are seen. Bright green tint due to the excess of xanthophylls. No pyrenoids are seen in them. Reserve food is fat and oil. Motile forms with equal flagella are seen. The class also contains one order, Chloromonadales, and Vacularia is one of the type which is familiar to us. Then comes the Euglenae, where the Euglena is included. They are unicellular flagellates, many chromatophores in the cell. Pyrenoid-like bodies are present. Reserve food is polysaccharide paramylon. One or two flagella that arise from canal-like invagination at the anterior end. These are the unique features of Euglenae, and the Euglena is included in the first family, Euglenaceae, and there are two other families also, Astaceae and Paranimaceae. Then comes the brown algae or Phaeophyceae. The chromatophores contain pigment fucoxanthin besides others. Lower forms have naked pyrenoid-like bodies. Reserve food is laminarin or polysaccharide, which is a polysaccharide. Then the mannitol, which is an alcohol. Cell wall made up of cellulose with alginic acid and fusidic acid. Reproductive cells have two lateral or subapical flagella. Sexual reproduction from isogamous to oogamous type. The class comprises 6 orders. Ectocarpales, where Ectocarpus is a common organism. Then Cutleriales, Cutleria is the example. Desmaristales, Laminariales, Spacilariales, and Fucales. And sargassum comes under Fucales. Another example is the Fucus, which I have mentioned in the first slide. Then comes the last group, Rhodophyceae. Most of these are marine with uniaxial and multiaxial thalli. Beside their pigments, chloromatophores contain phycoerythrin and phycocyanin, which gives the. There is an outer cell wall of pectic material and the inner cell wall is cellulosic. Pectic material is nothing but calcium magnesium pectates, which is the part of the middle lamella, which is a cementing substance, and the inner cellular cell wall. The reproductive cells are non-motile. Sexual reproduction is well developed and oogamous type. It consists of 8 orders. They are Mangiales, Nemalionales, Gelidiales, Cryptonimales, Bigartineales, Rhodomineales, and Ceramales. Among the Ceramales, we have to study the polysyphony in detail. You will see that in the respective class. And the last group included by Fritch is the first group we have to study, which is the Mixophyceae. Mixophyceae are otherwise called as blue-green algae or Cyanophyceae, where the cell is a prokaryotic cell. There is a rudimentary nucleus, which is also known as nucleoid. There is no well-developed nucleus or chromosomes as in the higher plants. No chromatophores are seen. Instead of chromatophores, we can see thylakoids in the towards the periphery of the cell, just inside the plasma membrane. Chief pigments are chlorophyll A, beta carotene, and C phycocyanin. Cell wall is made up of mucopolymers. Food reserve is cyanophycean starch, and sexual reproduction is absent. The class consists of 5 orders: Chlorococales, Chamisyphonales, Plurocapsales, Nostocales, and Stygonematales. Among these, we have to study Nostocales in detail with the type Nostoc. So that's all. Thank you.